Yeah, hi, my name's Joel Calvert. Welcome to my workshop where I make all sorts of strange things. When I was a child, I used to get quite freaked out by things like shop window dummies and automatons, stuffed animals in museums, things like that. Anything that was kind of playing with the edge of what was real and what wasn't real. So I can imagine going and seeing puppet shows at that stage in my life would have been very strange and very powerful and probably quite formative, I think, and nowadays means that I feel kind of closer to them now as an adult.
Have you ever thought about how they would feel about being like moved around or being put to bed, etc.?
No, not really, because I think to me, like an object like a puppet is like a word. In a way, it's a tool for communicating something, and it functions in a particular context. So, like, there was a puppet show these characters before, which was for Headley Park School in South Bristol, and they wanted a puppet show about friendship. And it was based off a couple of Japanese folk characters called Ashinaga and Tanaga, and they're fishermen. And one of them's very tall and he's got very long, thin legs but short arms, and the other one's very short and he's got like long, thin arms. And the idea is that they cooperate in order to accomplish something. So yeah, somewhere between doing a lot of practice and designing the puppets well enough, there's a golden space where you're not fighting with the puppet constantly. But until then, it's just like ah, and to make that not look awkward is really, really hard work. Part of what's attractive to me about being creative is that because I would consider myself like relatively shy. It's a way of having a more sort of legitimate existence and sort of communicating things and interacting with people, because I'm able to sort of express myself indirectly. So with this character, the idea was to have a story about how creative people are kind of often misunderstood. So this character, because she's able to hear really, really small sounds and there's a very creative temperament, her mum will be getting her to do the washing up or something like that, and she'll be doing the washing up but then get so distracted by the sounds that the different objects are making in the water And I thought I could have like shadow puppet projections or something to show what she's imagining is happening with all these different sounds. I'm aware that children have a perspective on life that I don't have anymore, that I don't have access to, and I've got a lot of respect for. So I try to just try and get on a level with kids as much as I can. The story for this one was inspired by a conversation I had with a kid while I was working for the playgroup, and we went on a trip and we had to do this treasure hunt. One of the things we had to try and spot was a squirrel, and I pretended that I'd seen a dinosaur up in the trees, and then I basically told the children there was a massive volcanic eruption millions of years ago, and most of the dinosaurs got wiped out except for the ones that climbed up to the tops of trees, but all of the really heavy and fat ones broke the branches. So through like natural selection, they ended up becoming really small. You can tell like entertaining lies, because kids do it all the time. They get discouraged from doing it, which I think is a shame to an extent. And it's got like claws and stuff. Scary dinosaur. You have to be able to not be self-conscious about the fact that you're doing something that again has lots of associations with childhood, this whole like picking up toys and moving them around, but it's a difficult balance. If I've got loads and loads of time and it's my own piece of work, then I could just go on and on for years experimenting and doing different sorts of things. But to a certain extent, if I'm doing a piece, like if I have to make a mask that has to fit a particular situation and it needs to be ready in 2 weeks, I can't be too self-indulgent in terms of the way I use my imagination. I can't be producing a big pile of throwaway stuff. I need to find a balance, but it's within that balance that I'm able to produce work that's finished. It's quite a sort of meditative thing. I often find I catch myself sort of making weird little noises and things to myself when I'm really absorbed in drawing and things like that, and it's sort of a very like pleasurable thing. You kind of just sort of follow it and it takes you somewhere. When things are working really well, it becomes kind of a passive experience in a way. Like you're sort of just being driven along. I think a lot of creative ideas come from your subconscious linking stuff together. And so if you're allowed to relax and you're not telling it to do something specific, it's more able to work well, I think. And it'll suddenly come up with something, and it'll be sort of trailing around in the background, and suddenly you'll be like, oh, what was that? And then you can go in and pull that out and start working out what you can do with it. Don't often remember what I dream about. Every so often I get little bits and bobs. I know I used to have nightmares and sleepwalk a lot. I used to have some pretty messed up dreams, I think, but I can't remember what they were. Puppeteers need to be able to do that same thing where they're freeing themselves up to do whatever they want, to follow impulses and things like that, and not necessarily consider what they're doing, because a puppeteer often, again, it's a balance. Sometimes you're considering the movement and training and all that sort of stuff. I suppose you do that until you just do that through muscle memory and through your subconscious, and then what you need to be able to do is be very bold about just spontaneously having the puppet do things and be led around by the puppet kind of representing the situation that you're in, the interactive situation that you're in. I had this idea of using a sort of African comb instead of a face, and then I started thinking about I like the idea of taking architecture and abstracting it to make it look much more like kind of decorative, like a representation of a building, but quite a kind of like abstract one. And then it sort of evolved, and I thought of the idea of kind of having this comb character as a sort of building. So he or she or it is like sort of exploring this landscape that's made up of different other buildings, and some of them are alive and some of them aren't. Cool. Or what would it be like if you sped up time and looked at the city developing, and one building getting bigger than the others, or one getting old and falling apart, and then a new one being sort of born out of the rubble. And you can have them do human things like going out and partying and like getting drunk and falling over, and you can have ones puking like out of the gutters on the building and stuff like that, or little military ones where they're having like little skirmishes and stuff. Or one building could sort of start to fall over and like lean on another one, and then knock that one over, and then that one knocks another one over and stuff like that. Just kind of responding to. So, in terms of puppeteers having an aspect to their personality that's childish, I think that happens a lot. I think you often see interviews with puppeteers where they'll be able to indulge in fantasy just like that. You know, they'll pick up a puppet and just be off straight away, doing all these things. So, I think to a certain extent they need to be able to do that in order to create a good performance. They need to be able to just have the characters talk to each other and things like that. That's the laboratory of a child. That's where they're working out how the world works. So you need to have that kind of unself-conscious sort of boldness that a child has, and that ability to experiment, I suppose, to be a puppeteer.